In a land once called the Gold Coast, European castles bestride the African shore like alien invaders. They were built as early as the 15th century and used by Portuguese, Dutchmen, Danes and Britons to imprison and ship out slaves. Today, they're memorials to a trade that shamed humanity.
Over 500 years ago, our ancestors were taken away from these shores in the bowels of ships, brutally raped, robbed of their culture, and taken to faraway places, to strange lands. Oh, you are what we have been waiting for.
Even adopting African dress and names. This former New York travel agent now calls herself Sister Imakus Njinga.
We are no longer coons and niggers. We are proud African people who are here where we're supposed to be. We make no apologies to anyone for what we are doing or how we are doing it. We stand proud as African people.
And she's helping other African Americans make the journey, giving advice on migration, organising tours, and staging reenactments to show what their ancestors suffered.
Mothers, take your children.
Europeans kidnapped or bought slaves across West Africa. All were marched overland to the Gold Coast ports. This land, now called Ghana, has become the first stop for African Americans tracing their roots.
We come to give homage to our grandmothers and great-grandmothers who were forced to pick cotton in the hot sun, who were forced to bear babies by men that they did not know, nor did they care to know.
Hallelujah. Oh, yes. Hallelujah. Oh, yes.
Who spent 3, 4 months at a time.
And this is where we plan to have our entertainment room, which in...
Dr. Adwoa Asatiwa left a university professorship to move to Cape Coast with her husband, Kwaku.
We decided to relocate.
As expected, they found they can live in relative luxury on their savings.
So if you're going to retire, this is a better option than going to Florida? Or...
Oh, absolutely. Well, Florida, if you go to Florida, you have to start with $1 million up front, and that's not going to buy you too much in Florida.
But they've had to come to terms with a disturbing discovery. The Africans they see as brothers and sisters see them as strangers.
We wanted to feel like we had come home. However, we later found that we weren't that welcome, by the native population. We weren't welcome is because they don't know us, and they don't know us, and we don't know them.
Oh, Bruni, I'm Bibini. Okay. Yo, Ashanti. It is not a very pleasing way to be identified. You know, we don't want to be called Obruni because we certainly weren't treated like Obruni in the U.S. By any stretch of the imagination. We were treated as African people. So that is a challenge.
She's also found that people have little sympathy for them as descendants of slaves.
I sometimes have to sit on my lips, you know, bite my tongue.
Perhaps the biggest disconnect is that many simply don't understand why Americans would come here.
I don't see it as a form of celebration that Ghana should be participating in. You want us to celebrate the abolition of a slave trade that you were responsible for starting or participating in? No, I think that that's hypocritical. And I personally would have nothing to do with that.
For the first time, children are learning that it wasn't just Europeans involved in the trade. It wasn't just Europeans involved in the trade.
And those behind the trade were some chiefs. And those behind the trade were some chiefs. And they were exchanged for ammunitions like gunpowder, drinkables like whiskey, schnapp, and even ordinary mirror.
Some long-term settlers wonder if they'll ever be completely accepted.
Hey, small girl, what's your name? Evelyn Atta. And what class are you in, Evelyn Atta? Class 2? How old are you?
The government encourages the black diaspora to visit Ghana, but Amicus suspects what it really wants is their money.
Money? You want money? You should give me some money. And that's the impression that you get, is to bring your resources, bring your money and stuff like that, but don't stay long. Bring your resources, bring your money and stuff like that, but don't stay long, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, anywhere in Africa, wherever the spirit leads us to be, we have the right to go there and settle.